The manhwa starts by taking us to an unexplored northern region of South Korea, as we see a bunch of explorers gathered around. We see a man that looks a bit nervous, and someone else approaches him, asking if this is his first time on an expedition. He says that he's been to gates and dungeons, but this is his first time in an unexplored area, which is why he's a bit nervous, and he thanks him for the drink. The dude laughs, saying that he better prepare himself mentally, as these types of places are left unexplored for hundreds of years, so they're bound to be filled with monsters, and there may even be some ancient ones. The dude says that their expedition team leader is from the famous esteemed Marshall Lee clan. He heard that he's the patriarch's brother, which means he must be pretty strong. The guy who gave him drinks says that he might be a bit confused because he's an illegitimate son. He's so weak that he was actually banished from the clan. We are introduced to the Marshall Lee clan's 9th illegitimate child, named Lee Cheol. The dude says not only is he not talented, he has no tenacity either, because he's only a 7th rank martial artist and old as hell. They ask how they're meant to depend on someone like him, and then someone walks in front of Cheol, saying that they should get moving again, and glares down at him. Cheol looks up at the dude, and then sighs, saying alright. Almost as if he's being forced into this mission, he explains that the Shadow Sword Squad are a direct affiliate squad of the patriarch of the Marshall Lee clan, and they're supposed to be protecting him, but something feels off, and he doesn't have a good feeling about this mission at all. There was once a time where he had hopes and dreams too. The time when he first realized the weight of being a part of the Marshall Lee clan was when he was chosen by the best ranked weapon at the steel selection ritual, and he thought to himself that if he continued to gain acknowledgement and tried his best, that he one day would be recognized. Of course, this did not happen. The doctor showed him his mana paths, saying that he's never seen them like this before, and he's not suited to learn magic, and martial arts will be super unstable if he tried practicing them. And for him to reach the 9th rank would be nothing short of a miracle. We see the butler telling the leader of the Lee clan all of this, and he looks out the window, and sighs. Cheol continues, saying that once everybody learned about his condition, they dismissed what happened at the steel selection ritual as a mere coincidence or mistake. And so he gave it his all and proved the doctor wrong. He received the 7th rank at 25 years old, and he was genuinely happy, even if his siblings had reached that rank as minors. Don't tell Drake about them. Cheol says that joy did not last long, since he was cast out of his clan at the age of 30, and if it were not for his oldest brother, he might have left the household as a corpse instead. He had been on the run ever since, and it's already been 10 years. A time of chaos had descended upon them all, and bro was straight homeless. We see some newspapers flying off as Cheol continues explaining how the unexplored regions continue to expand, and the monster invasions became more frequent. One of the papers smacks him straight in the face. As he pulls it off his face, he looks down at it, and sees that the sword saint, Lee Cheol, his father who was the pinnacle of martial arts, and the patriarch of the clan, had passed away. Then he was approached by some men that were the Shadow Sword Squad, and Cheol asks how they found him. They tell him that they have a decree for him, and he realizes they're just going to ignore his question. And Cheol says his bloodline will never let him go, and that this is an order from the new patriarch, Gun Song, which is his 3rd brother. He wonders about his older brother, asking where he's at, and if this is why he was sent to the unexplored regions. They tell Cheol they'll see him in an hour, but he tells them to wait, asking what happened to his eldest brother. He asks what is the point in ordering him to investigate the unexplored region, when he hasn't even wielded the sword in 10 years, and he's only a 7th rank martial artist. They ask if he's refusing to carry out his orders then, and Cheol says doing so would, of course, mean death, so he says he'll do it. As they leave him, Cheol sits there, full of anger that they are treating him like this, wondering what happened to his brother, and why they're treating him like shit still. Jumping back to the present, we see the guy who is nervous get surprised by something, as there is an abandoned building in the middle of the forest. He asks why it's here of all places, and it's pretty well preserved, all things considered. The Shadow Sword Squad tell Cheol they're going to be heading in, and as they all do so, they ask what the hell that is, as they see a giant monster skull on the ground. They say it must be an ancient monster's corpse, and the Shadow Sword Squad says they've found it, and the leader tells the rest to begin, as they all start flying forward. The dude who was nervous gets his head cut off before he can even finish asking, "Begin what?" Cheol turns, surprised, and he and the other man start yelling, asking what they are doing, and the Shadow Sword Squad says that surely they all knew that they were dead from the start, and that they should consider themselves honored to be used for the clan's goodwill. Right before he can stab the other dude, a sword goes through the back of his chest, as we see Cheol was the one who did it, and he asks who is behind this. The Shadow Sword Squad folds under zero pressure, saying that it was their liege, and they were ordered to bring all of them here, and to kill them as cleanly as possible. As he shatters the sword with his bare hands, his wound begins to heal itself. He says that they were only ordered to kill them cleanly if they didn't resist. Cheol wonders how his wound is closing, but the other dude misreads the situation, coming in with an attack, only for him to get absolutely cut in half, and Cheol nearly avoids death as well. They start laughing at him, saying that he is pathetic, and they thought he would be stronger than this. As they start charging at him, they say, considering that half of his blood is still part of the Lee clan. He sure is a disappointment, as they knee him in the chest. They send him flying backwards, and he shatters everything in his path until he slams into the giant skeleton, coughing up blood. He grits his teeth, saying that he refuses to die a dog's death like this, and he needs to find a weapon. He starts looking around until he spots one in the skull of the giant monster. He says if it was powerful enough to slay that beast, then it should be fine, even if it's been here for a while. He reaches onto it, and says that he did it only to pull it out, surprised that the blade begins dissolving into a black mist in front of his eyes, and he asks why. The Shadow Sword squad member, now standing right behind him, says that he didn't imagine that someone of the Lee clan could be so damn pathetic, and he'll send him off like a Lee at the very least. As he slices his back open, Cheol says that the heavens are so cruel, and that he was really just going to die like this, and he spent his entire life struggling and running, experiencing nothing but failure. If only he got one more chance at life. Of course, plot convenience, and the fact that this is the start of the series, we know what's going to happen. Everything fades to black, but then, we hear his father's voice, asking about his mother, who is named Yojung, and the butler says that it was too late when they found her. Cheol just wonders how his father is here, since he's already gone, and we are formally introduced to Taishan for the first time. Cheol says that he looks pretty young, and so does butler Choi as well. Coincidentally, Taishan gives him the nickname of Young, but I will continue calling him Cheol. He starts waving at them, and notices that he has fat little Vienna sausage hands. Double takes by looking at them again, and he's confused about what's going on. Cheol wonders what's going on, saying that he should be dead, and says this might be the afterlife or a flashback. Taishan tells butler Choi that just like the other children, he needs to assign him a handmaid and some Shadow Sword squad members as guards, and have him attend the steel selection ritual with the 8th child. Butler Choi asks if he means right now, since he isn't ready, and the 8th is still a few months older. Taishan thinks about it and looks down at Cheol, saying that it shouldn't matter. Much to Cheol's surprise, Taishan then says he's taking his leave, as Cheol sits there in his crib alone, and lets out a sigh, saying as expected of his father, he hasn't seen him in a while, but his pressure sure is a lot. But he wonders what is going on? As this is all too real to be a flashback. And in regards to that conversation just now, he's not sure if this actually ever happened, and he says he doesn't want to believe it, but if it is true, this means he might have actually regressed to the past. Spoiler alert, he did. It jumps to a few months after returning to the past. It's time for the special day of their clan, the steel selection ritual. The children of the clan display talent corresponding to the weapons that choose them. His father, who was chosen by dozens of blades, became the best swordsman of his generation. His eldest brother, who was selected by swords, tomes, and his staff, was renowned for his magic and swordsmanship, and the participant this time around is him. One of the maids says he dressed so well, and he's in a new environment, but he isn't crying at all either, which shows that he is pretty mature. We are introduced to his personal maid, named Moon Gawa. Gawa says she's sure he will get a good result, and she knows he has a bright future. Cheol says his handmaid was like a mother to him, but she was still expelled due to his other brother's hatred. She was the only person who cried for Cheol and how they mistreated him. This time he won't let that happen, as he touches her face, then he starts hugging her, saying that he'll protect her at all cost. Someone else enters, saying that the preparations are ready. Gawa looks down at Cheol, asking if he's ready to go. It then jumps to butler Choi, telling Taishan that the preparations have been completed. Taishan says it's time to go, as we see Cheol, Gawa, and the 8th child, and some maids following behind Taishan and butler Choi up some stairs into a bright light. They make their way out into the stadium, as the crowd goes wild, ready to see what the children get. We hear some people talking, saying that they can see him now, and it's the bastard son who was brought from outside. We see the matriarch of the clan, who is named Baek Huyen, as well as the minister, who is named Lee Tai Hong, as well as the first child, Myeongjin, and Gun Song, who Cheol has mentioned before. Myeongjin says that he's quite young, and Tai Hong glances over at him. Myeongjin says that he doesn't remember any of them participating in the ritual at this age. Gun Song says that he guesses, but he says that he doesn't know where he rolled in from, but he's intrigued. Taishan yells, saying it's time for the steel selection ritual to begin. He tells the maid to bring Hua to him, and we are introduced to the 8th child as he picks her up. Taishan then reaches into his coat and cuts her finger, causing her to start screaming, as her blood begins to pour out. It starts to have a very bright blue aura on it, as it flies into the mountain of weapons. Some people start pogging out of their gourds, saying that that is the relic rank sword of the utmost prestige, the ivory sword. It's a true masterpiece that hasn't responded to anyone for generations. Taishan then pulls it forward using some Jedi mind tricks, and even does some cool tricks with it in the air before catching it. He says from now on, the ivory sword belongs to Hua. They start congratulating Huiyan, saying that another talented child has been born to the family, and that it's a true occasion for the clan. She thanks them, and Taishan says it's time to continue. It's now Cheol's turn for the ritual. The spectators say that they all have heard the rumors about him being an illegitimate child, and they ask how a bastard is allowed to participate in the ritual. Taishan sits Cheol down, and then cuts his finger, but Cheol doesn't cry like Hua did, and Taishan pats his head, telling him that he's proud. Cheol says the time has come. In the past, he was selected by the Clear Echo, a heaven-ranked sword. He hopes that it's the same this time, as his blood starts to drip down, and comes into contact with the floor. We see a bright blue light. He really hopes that he at least gets that one this time too. We see Tai Hong glancing over to his right, and he says that based on Huiyan's expression, she seems to be in a pretty bad mood. But he guesses it's only natural because his brother had a hidden son, and that there's going to be a pitiful fate that lies ahead of that child, as it'll be hard to survive here as a bastard. We see this is right before the ritual. An old man steps up. He says that Tai Hong seems to be quite interested in this one. But Tai Hong just looks annoyed, saying that this man is part of the problem. He is the head elder named Cheol Yung. Tai Hong greets him, and says that he can't read him, so he needs to make sure he stays alert. Cheol Yung asks if that's the child that Taishan brought in. Tai Hong says yes, and that the Shadow Sword Squad was the one who found him. Cheol Yung continues, saying that he just doesn't understand what the Patriarch is thinking, and that he is letting a child that nobody knows where he was born from participate in the steel selection ritual. Saying that surely Tai Hong hasn't experienced it himself, that the steel selection ritual is of no use for a bastard child. Tai Hong's hand starts to shake, and he asks him what he just said. Cheol Yung apologizes, saying that the story of how he, another bastard child, failed to be selected by a single weapon is just that famous. Because in the end, a bastard child is not of the same bloodline. Cheol Yung taps his walking cane into the ground, saying that they must always know their place, because they don't deserve a spot at the same table as them. Tai Hong grits his teeth out of frustration, and yells, telling him to watch himself. But Cheol Yung is visibly shocked by something, and Tai Hong realizes this, wondering what's going on. He then looks back forward, as we see Cheol's selection ritual is producing a very bright light. Tai Hong asks how this could be possible. He's seeing it with his own two eyes, yet he still can't believe it, as it looks as if the entire arena has that bright blue glow to it, to the point that it's almost blinding to every spectator in the audience. He got a couple masterwork weapons, as well as a couple relic level weapons. The crowd says this is impossible, because even weapons that already have owners are responding to him. We see someone holding onto a blade, as it's resonating with Cheol too. It's none other than Myongjong, asking how this could happen, and he turns, telling Gunsong to get a look at this shit, saying that their youngest brother must be an unbelievable talent. Gunsong sees him as competition, saying that it appears so. The spectators say that something must be wrong, because an illegitimate child should not be capable of this. But it is also impossible for the steel selection ritual to be wrong. Taishan tells them all to be quiet, and immediately the entire arena falls deathly silent. He says according to the law of their clan, the weapons that chose Cheol should belong to him, but the situation obviously is not that simple, so he will take some suggestions. Tai Hong raises his hand, saying that he has one. Taishan asks what it is. As Tai Hong begins to smirk, he says that even if it's the law of their clan, bestowing all these weapons onto him means going against the meaning behind the ritual, as it is a ritual that must continue on for generations, and that they should allow him to choose a single weapon himself. Taishan snaps his finger, saying that's not bad. As all of the weapons begin to float in front of him, he says that he'll take his suggestion, because it seems fair. He also lifts Cheol into the air, and gently sets him down on the ground, in front of all of the weapons, telling him to pick the one which he likes the most. Cheol says he doesn't know why this is different from what happened in his past life, but this is good for him, and that he'll make the most out of this entire situation, as he begins crawling forward, determined. He passes by a sword named Frak, the Dragonslayer, as well as a holy spear that was forged from the body of a saint. This continues on and on, as every single weapon he passes by has some lore to it that shows that they are all truly great weapons, and that there isn't actually a bad choice among them. Cheol says there's no need to worry, as he stretches his hand forward. Taishan looks surprised, as he realizes what he's reaching for, because it's a sword discovered by their founder in unexplored lands. It is a sword covered in dust and veiled mysteries, and nobody understands how to use its hidden power. It's called the Black Twilight, and its known ability is nothing special, to the point that he doesn't even know why it's classified as a heaven-level weapon.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a good day.